He's got over 20 years experience in the technology domain, 35 AI projects, 6 UX books, and holds 24 patents. He's considered a cybersecurity expert.
Majority of the folks that are coming to me like, can you help me get rid of 20% of my workforce using AI? What I tell my clients is, why do you want to spend 6 months cutting 20% of your workforce when I can get you a beta in 6 weeks for a product that's going to make you 20%, 40, 50, 100% on the upside, and maybe make you that top 100 ISV.
What does your training look like? What are the pillars of UX for AI?
What I teach people is how to frame the problem, which is we look at addressing those 4 horsemen, which is we look at the use case, the data, the risk and ROI, and then at the process. Those are the 4 reasons why these AI projects fail.
Why do you say UX for AI? Hello and welcome to another fantastic episode of Pitch Cafe podcast. This is a place where I bring the movers and shakers in technology in Silicon Valley and across the globe. We have with us today Greg Nudelman, internationally recognized UX AI thought leader. He works at the intersection of user experience and artificial intelligence, but this is just a very small facet of his massive portfolio. He's got over 20 years experience in the technology domain, 35 AI projects, 6 UX books, and holds 24 patents. He's considered a cybersecurity expert, and he's building something exciting in the agentic observability space for cybersecurity. So I need to catch a breath here because there are a lot more things I wish to talk about him. Without further ado, let's bring on Greg Nudelman. I would call him a Silicon Valley cybersecurity and AI expert. Greg, welcome to Pitch Cafe podcast.
Thank you. It's great to be here, and thank you for the spirited introduction. It's good to be the mover and the shaker. It's a good gig if you can get it. Yeah.
So let's uncover the mover and the shaker. Greg, you've written 6 books for Pete's sake, and you're writing a 7th one. Tell us what these 6 books are, and most importantly, tell us about your 7th book also, because I like to know what is current, what's happening. Yeah.
Thank you, Vida. Yeah. So first off, clearly, I can't seem to be able to shut up. So yeah, I grew up reading a lot, and I was the only child. So I think that I blame my parents for this. The 6th book is UX for AI, and it's this right here. And it's also the name of the website where you can learn more about it, uxforai.com. And what it is, it's a blueprint, not just for UX teams, but for really all the product and development teams and startup founders really to use fundamental UX principles to address AI products and build them in a way that the customers would want to buy them. Because
why is it not happening?
It's not happening? Well, that's a great question. So they're actually, I identify in the book that there are 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, really, that are responsible for the 85% failure rate that we see in AI products today. And
hold on, 85%? Did you say 85%?
85%. Yeah, that's according to Gartner and Forbes. I didn't make up the number. Some people say it's even higher. If you look at MIT, that they even quote a higher number. And I think it's improving, but very, very slowly. And I'm really hoping that the book number 6, the UX for AI, and also the 7th book, the Snowball Sprint, can really turn the trend around and make it, flip it on its head. And maybe 85% could succeed and only 15% fail, because it is one of the most amazing opportunities right now to build something fundamentally different that is going to basically write your roadmap and write your name for the next 10 years. But so many companies are not taking advantage of it, or they're instead turning it into some sort of way to save money. And rather than looking at a 10x, 20x upside, they're saying, well, can you save us 20% of our workforce and, help us use AI to basically lay off 20% of our people instead of looking at that 20x upside. So they're trading 20x for 20% savings at the cost of their employees that really understand the business. And instead, they should leverage the employee knowledge to grow the business and to penetrate new markets. And this is exactly what UX for AI book is about. That's what the website is about. And that's what the whole methodology is. How do we do this without taking on additional risk? It is a really low risk way to explore that. And like I mentioned, so the reason why these things fail is I could see that's probably might be the next question. But if there's a different one, Vida, if there's a more burning question, please let me
I
know.
will. I will. I will. So give us a use case where you can make a company leverage the 20x versus just the 20%. Give some names and faces and real life products, or make one up if you have to,
Yeah,
or if there is a before and after which you saw with the use of the UX for AI methodology. I would love to, look at it.
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, one recent thing that I've shipped had been a 4-agent autonomous SOC investigation flow that was delivered at the big stage at the 2025 reInvent in December. And it's something I have built the POC for in just 6 weeks. And then only 2 months later, it ended up at the big stage at reInvent. And it's not just that it was featured. The company Sumo Logic has become top 100 ISV for AWS. It also was Forrester rated at 166% ROI, and it is documented to reduce MTTR from over 60 minutes down to less than 3 minutes.
So, Greg, for people who don't understand MTTR, who are not from cybersecurity, can you simply
Mean time to resolution. Essentially, what used to take an analyst 1 hour to investigate is now down to 3 minutes because all this purely agentic workflow that happens before the analyst actually takes on an alert. So typically they have to spend all this time threat hunting. They get a signal coming in, some sort of an alert, right, or an incident that comes in for a variety of things like looks like a phishing attempt, and now I'm going to have to spend all this time investigating. So we build a system whereby the agents actually do all that investigation for you, and then by the time you come to look at it, it's a lot of the basic investigation steps have already been done, and there's already a verdict there, and it is accomplished for 4 agents. Again, this isn't something that is particularly, I'd love to say it's out of this world, but and I'd love to say, oh my God, it's so unique and amazing and nobody could have done it. But the truth of the matter is, I think anyone could have done this using this methodology, and this is why I'm quoting it. It's the old adage of you look at Saturn, you see the rings. And the whole idea behind this methodology is that we use established UX principles, which is working with customers, which is rapid iteration. It is focusing on the use case. And then we apply to it additional AI-related framing, which is, do we have the data to answer the question? Do we have the data to train the AI? And then what is the AI output? What is the actual output that is being generated by this probabilistic system? Let's put it in front of customers and let's rapidly iterate using AI's own assisting tools, such as Claude Code, such as RAG building databases, such as vector DB enablement and refinement, so that we can rapidly create a product that customers actually want to buy and can use and actually addresses a very real problem for them, right? So jobs to be done. And one of the most important pieces is understanding what is the return on investment for this project versus the risk that AI introduces, because AI is going to hallucinate. Now, I personally worked with RAG files to reduce hallucination from 40% down to less than 2%. And that is one of my favorite accomplishments that I'm very proud of. And that is what enabled this autonomous system to function. But again, it's an iterative way. You partner with a machine to solve machine-related problems. And as long as you understand the use case, you understand where the data is coming from and how it applies to your problem, this is completely solvable.
Yeah.
And it's just the beginning, right? Like we're just scratching the surface. The company that I'm doing the AI product consultation go to market for right now, I'm doing advisory for them. It's called Hacker Dogs AI, and it was built by Redcar, really from the ground up. And what's interesting is he's actually a CPO, and I worked for him 3 times at Cisco, at Logic Monitor, and then again at Sumo Logic before he left to start Hacker Dogs. And he's the one doing all the coding. So here's an example of somebody who has had teams that are counts of 200 and up that is basically hand coding all of these agents that are, it's over 200 MCP servers, multiple agents that go from the outside in and figure out your security posture, and then are able to continuously scan it for threats. So both the outside and the inside. So you can go check it out, Hacker Dogs AI. It's literally just launched. So this is what I mean. So it's the tools and the capabilities that are currently available to you are unprecedented. It is the level of delivery and shipping that you can achieve is incredible. And most people just aren't doing this. Instead, I've been consulting for a while since I left Sumo, and the majority of the folks that are coming to me like, can you help me get rid of 20% of my workforce using AI? And that is a little shocking to me, because even though that is the trend, and that is what, Deloitte's and McKinsey's and Boston Consulting Group and those guys, right? That this is kind of their bread and butter. This is it's incongruent with the current capability of AI. It is the time to grab market share, to invest in rapidly iterative processes that are going to transform your company into a product delivery engine. It is time to make your company a machine for delivering value, instead of looking to cut what is probably the most precious resource, which is your people that understand your customers, people that know your business really well, and are going to deliver that next level of prosperity. Because AI is going to cut those jobs, fine, but at the same time, it will not come up with what is the way to make money, what is the real pain that your customers are experiencing. That's the kind of stuff that you need to talk to your employees about. Not get rid of your employees, but investing in them, giving them AI training, and allowing them to use AI to accelerate your business, which is why what I do most often now, and this is what I sell the most, is my training, my UX4AI.com training program. It's, from anywhere from 1 day to 5 days, where we can run the whole sprint together, where you actually get something that's almost beta ready to release.
Yeah.
And then I work with the companies to then ship that out and harden it and actually ship it. So what I tell my clients is, why do you want to spend 6 months cutting 20% of your workforce when I can get you a beta in 6 weeks for a product that's going to make you 20%, 40, 50, 100% on the upside, and maybe make you that top 100 ISV vendor for an AWS, or a cool Gartner vendor. That's the other thing that I did for Able, right? Like in 3 months, it became a Gartner cool vendor. Now, can anybody do it? I don't know, but if that's what you're looking to do, give me a call.
Yeah. So, Greg, you're a cybersecurity expert. Based on your work experience, that's the primary vertical you're able to deliver the UX solutions. Is the solution transferable to other verticals? What does your training look like? What are the pillars of UX for AI course look like? I understand you have this course on LinkedIn as well. Are you teaching this on LinkedIn, or you're?
Yeah, the LinkedIn thing is a separate story, but yeah, I shot this course in Carpinteria at LinkedIn, and then unfortunately they decided that it was a little too radical, that they wanted whatever they call traditional UX course, and they said it was kind of it was crossing too many boundaries and going to ruffle too many feathers. So that's why we didn't actually release it. But it was very amicable partying, it's their call, right? They've changed their direction internally. Whatever it is that they want to do is all good. That's, again, very amicable partying. I was very happy with just having the opportunity to work with their exceptional product and production people. It's been a most amazing experience, and I would love to do it again. They just got to say the word, and I'll go to Carpinteria again. But I think let's just go back to the pillars of what exactly is the training. So it depends on how many days you have to invest. But at the very minimum, what I teach people is how to frame the problem, which is we look at addressing those 4 horsemen, which is we look at the use case, the data, the risk and ROI, and then at the process, right? So those are the 4 reasons why these AI projects fail, and we address each one in the course. So we look at the use case first off. Is it something that can benefit the customer? How does it really work? We use storyboards to show the interactions with agents, which is critical. Very, very few people now are able to explain how the agents work. Like this is something that is unique to the course because that's exactly what it does. It shows what's does the handoff look like. If there are multiple agents, what does the handoff between agents look like? We use a storyboard to explain it. It's extremely effective for doing that. And it is not something, that is so innovative. It's just an innovative way to apply a traditional, well time-tested UX technique like storyboarding to
Yeah.
AI. So that is one. So number two, we look at where does the data come from and how's the data move through the system. To do this, we create what's called a digital twin of your system. We look at the inputs, the outputs, what happens in the middle, specifically what goes from one agent to another, from a human to an agent. If the human in the loop is happening, where does that happen? Is it in the right place? So many systems today do not stand up to that scrutiny. And it's a very simple, very quick exercise, but it's very, very easy to see that what looks flashy on the surface actually doesn't work at all when you break it down that way. And that is why it's such a valuable exercise for folks to learn how to do.
Yeah, I have a question. Calling
Please.
this UX for AI, but it's not UX for AI. This is more, you're observing the AI operations here. This is observability, isn't it? Why do you say UX for AI?
Well, that was it's funny. My buddy Phil actually came up with this, Phil Bartola. We work, he's a masochist. He knows me for 20 years and he still talks to me. So, in fact, we'll be heading to South by Southwest next. I'll be teaching my 5th workshop there. Yes, so UX for AI. Yes, they're also clearly suckers for punishment. But since they invited me back for 5 times in a row, but I think it's kind of what I saw. It utilized a lot of UX techniques, but it's very much sits in the product domain because it talks about ROI, talks about data and PRD, and it's really acting as a glue to bring all of the pieces together. And all of these exercises are something you don't do in a corner playing with your crayons. This is something you do with your whole team where you sit down and you go, okay, let's build this digital twin together. Let's really trace the data for the system. Let's look at each agentic handoff. Now, the typical diagram that you get is sort of, here's a human that goes to this agent, goes to this layer, goes to this. Like you just get kind of a little arrow. It doesn't really talk about what gets handed off, what sort of, does the human get to see this piece? Do they get to see this piece? Like we're exactly, really breaking it down to piece by piece. That's what it does.
Yeah, this is not a trace of the data. This is because I did a podcast with a person who coined the term data lineage, how the data travels throughout your company.
Yeah, that's a little different. Yeah, this is different.
This is tracing what? This is the trace. You're tracing the actions and the data handoff. What? So this is like a relay race of what? What kind of a relay race are we recording here?
Think of it as a blueprint for your system, right? If you look at a blueprint for the car, you can see kind of the fuel moving through the system. Data being the fuel for your AI system, you really want to know where it's coming from, where does it get filtered, where it gets throttled, that kind of stuff. And it's very data focused, but it's also focused on handoffs and specific layers. I actually, if your folks want to reach out to me on LinkedIn or just sign up for UX4AI.com, one of the things I do is I send out a free chapter from the book, specifically on digital twins. It's one of the most popular chapters. It's the one that people find one of the most valuable, as well as easy to understand and immediately get value from. Unlike the next thing I'm going to talk about, which is value matrix. But so if you're interested in digital twins for your agentic AI system, just again, UX4AI.com or look me up on LinkedIn and I'll be happy to share it. So once you trace the data and you understand you have the data to answer the question, which is critical. There's so many times that both in a consulting and in-house career, over the last 16 years, I've been doing AI and shipping 34 products. I've been asked to do what we didn't have the data to train the system to do. And I've learned to recognize that. And my spider sense starts to tingle, and I can tell that this is not going to work. And so I can usually pivot the question slightly to something that we actually have the data for.
Yeah.
And then that becomes also extremely valuable. And then we can, for example, use that to collect the data to then enable that next stage. I can give an example if you want. But before we turn, I wanted to cover two more pieces. So the next piece is the value matrix. And that is really critical. That is something, again, that UX people generally don't do. This is more of a product domain. And this is specifically about evaluating return on investment for this AI and also the risk. Because every AI is going to hallucinate. If somebody tries to tell you it's 100% correct, they are selling you silicon oil, silicon snake oil. They are lying to you. Okay, let's just be honest. They're lying to you. This is not the type of tech that's going to be 100% correct in any shape or form. It's not its function. That's not how it works at all. And so you need to go in with eyes wide open to say what happens when it hallucinates, because it can be guessing true positive and then you get a false positive, or true negative and you get a false negative. What is the cost and what is the value of each outcome? And then multiply that times the number of times it occurs with this specific model that you just built and trained, and then you get your value matrix. It's considerably more valuable than, pardon the pun, than a confusion matrix. Because a confusion matrix just tells you what is accuracy, recall, in precision. These are abstract numbers, they're data science numbers. They don't mean anything in the real world scenarios. Accuracy, I have one of my favorite articles is accuracy is bullshit. And here's what we must do about it, because even very accurate AI can be a very bad fit for your particular use case. You may want AI that's aggressive and doesn't leave as much money on the table, because very accurate AI tries very hard not to be wrong. And that may not be what you want, right? It's for example, if you have a simple test to do biopsy, you don't want something that's hesitating to refer you to a doctor to get a biopsy. But, for like skin cancer, for example, it's a very simple, quick biopsy, right? Like maybe a doctor can look at the lesion on your skin and decide that doesn't look like cancer, fine. But you don't want AI to be very accurate, because it will miss a lot of possible true positives. Yeah. It will be like, oh, that doesn't look like cancer, that doesn't look like cancer, because it doesn't want to be wrong. And so you're going to miss that early sign, which is really, really critical. And that is why you might get cancer later in life. Now, if AI is, let's flip it on its head and go like brain cancer, right? Like you don't want AI to be very aggressive then, because guess what? That biopsy is super invasive. Yeah. You might have a lot of problems. Somebody trying to stick a needle in your skull. And so you don't want to be aggressive. That's where you want to be very accurate. Yeah. That's where you don't want to be over aggressive with your recommendation. So just even the similar use case, but slight difference, it's going to be hugely influential what your model does and how you evaluate that risk ROI profile. So that's just a little preview on the value matrix. So those are the three pieces I teach. So
Summarizing what you just explained to me, you help them nail the problem, position the problem. Second thing, you help them create a digital twin. And we go from confusion matrix to value matrix, because value matrix is the real world capture of the accuracy AI can deliver for your
That's exactly correct.
So your entire workshop is structured around these three pillars, right?
Yeah, well, that's just the framing, right? Like first you want to make sure you're building the right thing, and then you want to actually build it, right? Because one of the things that the way that UX used to help is we used to say, well, we can save you all this dev time by just creating wireframes in Figma and then testing them with customers. Well, guess what? That's no longer viable on many levels. Number one, because your data is going to be fake, and if you do that, and then number two is your flow isn't all that important anymore, because if you did the framing correctly, the flow just sort of follows out of it. What matters the most is the content that AI actually is going to output. Do you have the data? Is the ROI correct? All of that kind of stuff. Once you frame it, the actual flow, it almost doesn't matter. And what you end up with all these UX people running around going, well, should I use this font? Or should I use that font? Should it be like 200 pixels or 180 pixels on the side? Should it be on the right side or the left side? Oh, should Should the question be on the top or the bottom? I kid you not, months wasted, ridiculously wasted time, which is why UXers are losing their jobs and dropping like flies. Because if you're wasting time on this insane, zero value questions, you are actually slowing down the process.
What should a UX look like for AI projects? Like, the first question which popped up in my mind when you said AI, agent to agent communication does not require interface. What's going to happen to UX? That's the very first question I had. But I also had another question after you told me that about the storyboard of what is being handed off between agents. Then I felt, well, we humans need an interface to see what's happening with the data and what the agent is doing with the data, what is being delivered to the next agent. So so that's the UX you're talking about. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yes. This is the kind of coordination that needs to be driven by the team through actually creating these prototypes. And once you have a very simple workflow just sketched out, and again, this is not a long exercise. This is the opposite. This is just a 10, 15 minutes thing where you just brainstorm every possible way. Let's put it on the right. Let's put it on the left. Okay, put it on the top, put it on the bottom. You're done, right? Bam, bam. Right. So this is literally a 10-minute exercise. This is the amount of time I give folks to create their UI. Once that UI is done, the actual work begins, because you have got to get your data into a RAG file, which is retrieval augmented generation. And then, you take a thin slice of real data, and that's really, really critical. It's critical that we don't use synthetic data. We actually use real data from that you have from your customers, and you thin slice it. You identify a very simple use case for which you have under 20 RAG files, because that's the limit that you can feed into Claude. And you create those, and then once you have them, that's your first prototype. Literally, it's LLM, Claude, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, whatever, and then a few RAG files. That is your first system. Using that, you can now go directly to your customers and say, you can ask any question that you would normally ask this system in this use case that we have identified, but only on that thin slice of data. For example, one of the things I did at Sumo is create a RAG across all the different security rules. There were more than 1,000 security rules, 1,500 RAG files. It took several weeks. Did we start by doing all of this? Absolutely not. Instead, what I've done is I just took CloudTrail. I took CloudTrail and I said, look, there's only 15 rules for CloudTrail. I can make 15 RAG files. Not even a registry. You don't need that, right? You could just make 15 rules. And so now you go to customer, you load up these RAGs in there into you can have your private version with Bedrock, or if you're less risk averse or you're running a startup or something, you just throw it into Claude, right? Like your normal UI. And then you say, you can ask any question about the security rule, create a security rule, change a security rule, whatever it is, as long as it's CloudTrail. And guess what? That's enough to understand, is this working? Do you have the right data? Are you doing the right thing? Are the customers asking the question you thought they were going to be asking? And is the kind of output that they're getting is the right output? And you can iterate super fast. So if the first answer, let's say, is a huge wall of text, and they're like, look, I just need the rule itself. I just need the gherkin or something, or I just need a JSON so I can feed it somewhere else. You can very easily iterate. You can literally say, just give me this. You don't need to wait for another person. You can immediately, with the person, co-create what it is that they want to see. This is incredible opportunity to actually create real thing. But it's real, right? There's nothing fake about it. It's real data. It's real LLM that you're going to be using. Maybe you'll be using Haiku or something, but it's as close as you get to the real thing, and it's sort of self-learning. So very, very quickly, within 2 or 3 meetings with customers, you can get to something that you can nail, and they should be able to say, this is fantastic. When can I buy this? If you're not hearing this directly from your customers, this is fantastic. When can I buy it? Here's my money. Give it to me now. Right. If you're not hearing this, you're not hitting the right use case. If you're hearing like, 10%, 5%, or it's not for me, but it's, Joel over here might be interested. That is not what you want to hear with AI, because AI is like a nuclear missile, nuclear ballistic missile. If it's not blowing up,
Yeah.
if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. Okay.
And
This has got to be, you got to be very, very selective here, because it's a big investment and you want to move fast and you want to be able to have that enthusiasm, because you want to be able to use that as a way to say, should I pivot? Right. Because if they're enthusiastic about a solution and you present them with the UI that doesn't quite work, they'll tell you. But if
yeah.
they're lukewarm about it, they'll be like, whatever, this one
So
doesn't
Greg,
matter. That's
yeah,
not the answer you want. You want to be you want excitable customers, because you want that 10, 20x.
Yeah.
Because if you're not doing it, guess what? Your competitor is doing it in their garage or with their laptop right now, and you're wasting time on the use case that is not worth nearly as much as something that you should be working on.
Yeah, but yeah, why can't this be a product it's on its own? What you're building, why can't it be a product on its own?
You can, yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can. Like, in fact, Hacker Dogs AI is about to release 200 of their MCP servers as open source on GitHub. So, and that is exactly what it is. Anyone who wants to build an agent and have an MCP server, they'll have the code to run with it. It's a brand new way of building things, because where's the value? You see these SaaS apocalypse, right? That SaaS apocalypse that's been happening, and I just published an article on that, because this is exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing a complete reversal of what we consider IP and what we consider value for a company. All these legacy processes that need to be maintained and painstakingly engineered are actually slowing people down. This is now feature bloat.
Yeah.
It's not something that customers even need. So all that value that they've built is kind of moot. Not only that, but their whole infrastructure is now in the cloud. So they don't own infrastructure. Their IP is worthless. So no wonder they're in a toilet and Benioff is wearing a leather jacket instead, trying to pass as a real innovator. But it's a tough thing to be in, right? It's very, very tough, because we're used to saying, Salesforce is unassailable, and it's suddenly the butt of every joke. It's kind of a topsy-turvy world, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
But it's also somebody who wants to build and is willing to experiment and iterate.
Yeah.
And is an incredible opportunity. And this book is the perfect recipe. It's a perfect blueprint for you to go forth and create value.
Wonderful. So Greg, is the book available on the website, or have you launched it on Amazon? Is it?
Oh yes, yeah. It was launched on Amazon. It's by Wiley, so it's a major publisher. It's my third book by Wiley. It's actually getting translation into Russian, of all things. My previous one got translated into Chinese and Portuguese.
Oh.
So this one is getting Russian first, which is quite funny. But yeah, it was number one new release on Amazon for some time. So
Wonderful.
never had a number one new release. So hey, let's do it, right? That's always cool.
Yeah.
Cool to see that. But yeah, it's on Amazon. Go to ux4ai.com, ux4ai.com, and then there'll be all the links there for you to explore.
Wonderful. So Greg, what are you like outside of writing a book and teaching your workshop and consulting with startups? What is Greg like? I know you like to meditate. You do meditation classes, but
yeah. So right. So this is something I bought in Akihabara in Japan, in Tokyo. I'm very, very excited to have been there. Let's see. I love lit RPG, because I can't really hold two thoughts in my head at the same time while I'm doing all right. So I play D&D a lot. I work out. My new favorite thing is go to UJam and jam with all the ladies. I'm like one of one or two guys in the room, which is great, right? So it's always fun to do that. Yeah, I love working out. I love riding my bike. I love being outside and hiking and music. Love listening to music. I love travel. So yeah, I'm a sucker for travel. So if you want to do an international workshop, definitely hit me up. I'll give you a nice discount. If you want me to fly to some exotic location, although now with all the stuff that's happening, that might be a few months before we we picked that up again. But yeah, I got a lot of diverse interests. You can see all that junk behind me that from all the different places I've
That's amazing.
collected.
No, it's
Yeah,
fascinating. Your book rack is fascinating. So is your
thank
experience.
you.
I love the way you positioned your mission statement, increasing 20x versus laying 20% of the employees off. So that's a great vision. I think you understand the way AI works very well in depth and you have applied it in cybersecurity. So I think the book and the workshop are both highly recommended. With that, yeah. Greg, will you be at RSA? Will I be seeing you at RSA? What are you doing at RSA?
Absolutely. I'm attending every party that I can. And yes, free booze is nothing to sneeze at. Yeah. No,
Okay.
I'm kidding. Yes, I'm actually really excited to represent Hacker Dogs AI, and we have a new campaign called Open Paw. And then it's also because Open Claw, right? Like
Not
that's if
okay.
you're in, yeah, everybody's afraid of Open Claw, so this is Open Paw to protect yourself from Open Claw, and also 3 clicks to your attack surface. So get your attack surface in 3 clicks. This is all very exciting for me because I'm helping it go to market. So we
Yeah,
work
you
really hard on
definitely.
that.
Yeah, you have the engine for go to market for AI products. I think with the three pillars of your workshop, it's a great way to get people started on the go to market, at least the UX part, because a lot of what you build is what you demo when you take the product to the market. And if it's built well, then you're almost half the way into signing a deal. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the key. Also, is you want to because building is so easy these days. You want to make sure you're building the right thing, which is all that
And you
framing
stand
that
out.
we've talked about,
Yeah.
and then also you want to babysit this thing into shipping. You
Yep.
don't want to just kind of throw it over the wall and say, well, good luck, right? We build this POC, customers love it. Make sure you don't screw it up. That's
Yep.
not how it works. You got to really. That's why my methodology is called snowball sprint.
Mhm.
Is because you start the snowball in the right direction and then you just keep rolling it. You keep adding enhancements, and one of the enhancements is hardening. You harden it for production. You add the branding. You add the marketing campaign. That is all after you've built it. Make sure you have product market fit. Make sure you have the right ROI, the right data, all of that kind of stuff. Now you've built the thing. Don't just say my job is done and hand it off. That is no longer acceptable. We
Yeah.
have to really reconsider how we do this. That it's no longer double diamond. It's a snowball,
Yeah.
right? So that next layer, you need to supervise that. You need to work with the engineers to ensure that it's hardened the right way, pinpoint all of the performance issue, any kind of latency, any kind of dark corners in your data. Make sure you handle all of that. If there is an intermediate step in a waiting period, like for any kind of agentic thing, you want to be able to address that as Vid, as you said, that I think that's really, really critical. So that's where all the touches are until you actually shepherd this thing out the door. That is the real life cycle because it's all about the shipping. It's no longer just, oh, I wrote the PRD, I'm done, right? Or oh, I did the Figma wireframes. Good luck with the rest of it.
Yeah.
That's not how it works. It's everybody's pulling together up until this thing is on customers' desktop or they're on their mobile phone, and then that's just the start of the work because you're starting to collect the data, you start to iterate. Now you really are cooking with gasoline and you're really rolling that snowball that is ready, right? And that's the exciting part because that's when you start to collect real data and you start to polish and improve and make it better and better. And that's the work, right? Like the way that it used to run is just no longer viable. So we
Yeah.
can't keep doing that. That's why 85% fail, and I'm trying to reverse the trend. That's the wrong process, right? That's the last and the most insidious, and I think that's going to be the hardest to uproot. Horseman of the apocalypse. That's the
Yeah.
last one. Is the
Yeah.
wrong process, right?
So thank you for your hat tip on reducing 85% failures in AI projects. This is a phenomenal podcast, extremely insightful from many aspects, including you started with the data, product design, how the team should collaborate together. Every stakeholder is important until you bring the product in face to face with the data. So this is a whole cycle you completed. It's not a diamond anymore, and we are snowball sprinting. So
Thank you.
so this is time well spent with a great thought leader, not only in AI, UX, product design, but also cybersecurity. So Greg, wish you all the best with your book. Any last advice you have on this podcast for the people who are building products in AI, other than what you just said for the year 2026, with all the new tools, with the token windows size, which is growing by the day? What is your advice to people who are building AI products?
Yeah, I think 2026 up to now we've been playing around, but I think the mood's all changed in 2026. That this
Yep.
is to borrow Eminem's lyric here. The mood has changed. We need to ship the real thing. And I'm really hoping that you take advantage of some of these tools that we've talked about, some of these techniques to build the right thing and then build it quickly. And if you cannot get to a beta in 6 weeks, you're probably doing something wrong.
Yep.
This should really be your goal.
Yep.
It should be at least a weekly demo,
Yep.
if not more often than that. And then you should be aiming to get the beta out in 6 weeks. And if you're not, then you kind of probably could use some improvement there.
Yep.
So I hope you take advantage of all these freebies and of the book and the upcoming book, Snowball Sprint, and go to ux4ai.com and get your free chapter on digital twins, and that should get you started. Should get you started on rolling your own snowball.
Yeah. And what is the best way to get your attention on LinkedIn? I know you get a lot of this and that, but how do we know that the message is legit? What do you look for?
I actually have written my own CRM using Claude Code, and I've written my own email handler using Claude Code. That's agentic, so it knows to flag it when there's a real person reaching out and not yet another make $100 million with your AI kind of ridiculous
So it looks like I
overclaim.
passed the test when I wrote to you.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. So just, don't be shy. Reach out and we'll connect. And if you are going to RSA, I'd love to buy you an overpriced beverage and pick your brain and get your opinion on 3 clicks to attack surface and OpenPaw that we built. So with Hacker Dogs. So definitely ping me if you're heading to RSA.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thanks, Greg. I'd love to have you back again. Thank you for doing this.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much, Vida. Appreciate it.
Wonderful.